I was 16 when my father brought Linda home. She walked through our front door like she already owned the deed, heels clicking on the hardwood my mother had chosen, perfume settling into the curtains my mother had sewn. And behind her, trailing like a shadow in designer jeans, was Britney, my age, my new stepsister, my replacement. My mother had been dead for 3 years. Cancer. The kind that takes everything slowly, her hair, her energy, her ability to remember my name in the final weeks. She left me one thing, a college fund, $40,000 in a trust that would unlock when I turned 18. For your future, she'd whispered, her fingers too weak to hold my hand properly. For the life I won't see. I kept that money like a secret, like a promise, like proof that someone once had believed I was worth investing in. Britney figured that out within a month. She was blonde where I was dark, loud where I was quiet. The kind of girl who could walk into a room and make everyone feel like they were lucky to be noticed. I watched her work our father the same way, compliments about his tie, questions about his day, laughter at jokes that weren't funny. Within weeks, he was calling her sweetheart in the same tone he'd once reserved for me. I told myself I was being paranoid, that grief was making me territorial, that a new family didn't mean the erasure of the old one. I was wrong. It started small. Britney borrowing my clothes without asking. Britney accidentally using my shampoo, my laptop, my stories about my mother as if they were hers. Then it got bigger. My spot at the dinner table shifted to the end so Britney could sit beside Dad. My mother's photo on the mantel temporarily moved to a drawer while Linda redecorated. Temporarily became permanently. The drawer became storage. Storage became forgotten, and then the fund. I was 17 when I checked the balance. The account was empty, not drained gradually that would have triggered alerts. No, someone had forged documents, presented them to the bank, and transferred the full $40,000 in a single day. The signature looked like mine. The ID looked like mine. But I had been at school that day, taking a calculus exam I would fail because I couldn't stop thinking about how cold the house had become since Linda moved in. I knew it was Britney before I had proof. I knew it the way you know a storm is coming, pressure in your chest, electricity in the air, the certainty that something is about to break. I confronted her in our shared bathroom, the one Linda had renovated to be more modern, which meant all traces of my mother's taste were gone. Britney was curling her hair, humming something pop and meaningless. You took it, I said, no question, just fact. She didn't flinch, didn't pause, just met my eyes in the mirror and smiled, the same smile she used on our father, on teachers, on boys who didn't know better. Took what, Claire Bear? My money, my mother's money. She set down the curling iron, turned to face me. And in that moment, I saw what I'd been too hurt to see before. She wasn't just selfish. She was strategic. Every kindness had been calculated. Every shared secret, a deposit in a bank she planned to collect from later. Prove it, she said, so I did. I spent 3 weeks gathering evidence, bank records, security footage from the branch, emails traced to an account Britney thought she'd hidden. I compiled it all into a folder. I made copies. I prepared to go to the police, to the school, to anyone who would listen. I showed my father first, because some part of me, the part that still remembered him reading me bedtime stories, still believed he would choose me. He sat at the kitchen table, Linda hovering behind him, Britney dabbing fake tears with a tissue. He looked through the folder, every page, every proof, and then he closed it, pushed it back toward me. Claire, he said, and his voice was so tired, so disappointed in me, I realized, not in her. Your mother is gone. This family is what you have now. Do you really want to tear it apart over money? It wasn't just money, I whispered. It was her, it was everything she left me. Margaret is dead, he said, and hearing him say her name like that, casually, like she was a closed account, a finished chapter, something broke in me, something I didn't know could break. Linda and Britney are your family now. You need to learn to share, to trust, to stop being so suspicious of everyone who loves you. Linda put her hand on his shoulder. Britney smiled through her fake tears. I looked at the three of them and understood. I was the outsider in my own home, the ghost of a family that no longer existed, and ghosts don't get justice. They get forgotten. I left that night. I took nothing but a backpack of clothes, my mother's locket, the one Britney hadn't found yet, and the original copies of my evidence. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't leave a note. I just walked out the front door and kept walking until the house was a memory, then a story, then a wound that scarred over but never fully healed. I was 18. I had no money, no family, no plan, but I had a name, Margaret, my mother's name, and I decided to become someone worthy of it. Welcome to Little Bunny Stories. If you're new here, my name is Claire, and this is the story of how I stopped being a ghost and started being the author of my own ending. If you've ever had someone take what was yours and call it love, if you've ever been asked to forgive before you were allowed to grieve, subscribe. This one's for you. Here's my story. I became Margaret Chen officially 6 months after I left. A legal name change, a new social security number, a fresh start built on the ashes of who I'd been. I worked 2 jobs during the day, diner waitress, overnight stock clerk, and took online classes at night. Business administration, event planning, psychology, anything that would help me understand how people like Britney worked and how to build something they couldn't take. I learned that revenge isn't a feeling. It's a discipline. It's waking up every day and choosing to be better than the person who hurt you, not because they deserve your improvement, but because you do. I learned that trust isn't given. It's earned in increments so small most people don't notice them, showing up on time, remembering a preference, delivering more than promised. I built a reputation as someone who could make impossible things happen, who could plan a wedding in 3 weeks, find a venue when everything was booked, calm a bride having a panic attack at 2 a.m. By 30, I was the most sought-after wedding planner in the city. My company, Margaret's Touch, specialized in luxury events for people who didn't blink at spending $100,000 on flowers. I had a team of 12, a penthouse apartment, a closet full of designer clothes that Britney would have killed to borrow. I also had rules. I never took clients without a full background check. I never worked with anyone connected to my old life. I never ever used the name Claire. Until the email came. Dear Margaret, I was referred to you by the Harringtons. You planned their daughter's wedding last spring, and I've never seen anything more perfect. I'm engaged to Richard Caldwell, and we want something unforgettable. Budget is unlimited. Timeline is aggressive, 3 months. Are you available? Brittany Ashford I stared at the name for 10 minutes. Brittany Ashford, not Brittany Miller, my father's name. She'd married once, apparently, or at least taken a husband's name, or she'd changed it legally. It didn't matter. I would have recognized her self-description anywhere, unlimited budget. Aggressive timeline, the casual assumption that the world would rearrange itself for her convenience. I should have said no. Every instinct I had, every lesson I'd learned in 15 years of rebuilding, screamed at me to delete the email, block the address, pretend I'd never seen it. Instead, I typed, I'd be delighted to discuss your vision. When would you like to meet? I told myself it was professional curiosity, that I wanted to see what kind of woman she'd become. That I was over it, healed, beyond the need for closure. I was lying. But some lies you tell so long they become the architecture of your life, and I was very good at architecture. We met at a cafe in the financial district, her choice, of course. She arrived 20 minutes late, sunglasses pushed into her hair, talking loudly into a phone about the Maldives option for the honeymoon. She didn't recognize me. I had changed. That was part of it. The girl who'd left home at 18 had been thin from stress, pale from crying, dressed in hand-me-downs that didn't fit. The woman who sat across from Britney now had highlights that cost more than my first car, a wardrobe tailored to her exact measurements, and the kind of confidence that comes from knowing you built every inch of your life with your own hands. But the bigger change was internal. I had spent 15 years studying people like her, learning how they moved through the world, what they wanted, what they feared. And I had learned to become invisible in plain sight, charming, efficient, forgettable. The perfect assistant, the reliable vendor, the woman who made your dreams come true while you took all the credit. Margaret, darling, Britney said, finally hanging up her phone. She didn't offer her hand. I've heard such wonderful things. Richard is very particular, but I have complete faith you'll deliver something adequate. Adequate, the word she'd used for my existence once. I smiled. Tell me about your vision, I said. She talked for an hour. About the venue, a historic cathedral, booked 2 years in advance, which I would somehow make available in 3 months. About the guest list, 400 people, including 3 senators, 2 CEOs, and a minor royal. About the dress, custom Vera Wang, because off the rack is for people who settle. And about Richard. Richard Caldwell, 45, tech billionaire, recently divorced. She'd met him at a charity gala. She'd accidentally spilled wine on his jacket, then accidentally left her number in his pocket. She laughed when she told the story, like it was charming rather than calculated. He's obsessed with me, she said, not bothering to hide her satisfaction. He bought me a penthouse after our second date, a yacht after our third. Some men just need to be shown what they want. I nodded, made notes, asked the right questions, and all the while I watched her, the way she checked her reflection in every surface, the way she dismissed the waitress with a snap of her fingers, the way she spoke about her past, difficult family situation, had to make my own way, no one ever gave me anything. She had rewritten her history, made herself the orphan, the self-made woman, the survivor, and somewhere in that rewrite I had ceased to exist. Not as a victim that would have required acknowledging she'd done something wrong. I had simply been erased, a footnote in a story where she was the only character. "Do you have family coming?" I asked, casual, just part of the standard questionnaire. Her smile flickered, just for a second. "My mother passed a few years ago, my father," she shrugged. "We don't speak. He chose his biological daughter over me. Can you imagine? Some people can't handle blended families." I kept my face neutral. "That's terrible, isn't it?" She was this pathetic, paranoid thing, always accusing me of things I didn't do. Stole her boyfriend, apparently as if I'd want some high school loser. Took her college fund, I had my own money, thank you very much. She finally ran away, and good riddance. Some people are just determined to be victims. I wrote no family in my notes. My handwriting didn't shake. "And you?" she asked, suddenly curious. "Married, kids, work is my family," I said. "I find that the people you choose are often more loyal than the ones you're born to." She laughed, delighted. "Exactly, you understand. Blood is just biology, loyalty is a choice." I agreed with her. For the first time, we were saying the same words and meaning completely different things. The planning took 10 weeks. I threw myself into it with a focus that worried my assistant, Jenna. "You're working 20-hour days," she said. "You're not eating. What's going on with this client?" "She's special," I said, and I meant it. Britney was special. She was the reason I learned to work 20-hour days. The reason I learned to read contracts down to the comma, to anticipate problems before they arose, to build systems so robust they could survive any sabotage. Every skill I had, every instinct I'd honed, had been forged in the fire of her betrayal. She had made me in her way, and now she would unmake herself. I didn't plan revenge, not consciously. I didn't sit in my apartment plotting her downfall like a villain in a movie. What I did was simpler and more dangerous. I paid attention. I listened to her complaints about Richard, controlling, boring, doesn't understand me. I noted her flirtations with the best man, the photographer, the married caterer. I documented every accidental charge to Richard's account for wedding expenses that went to her personal shopping, and I found the marriage. It wasn't hard once I knew to look. Britney had never been careful, she'd been lucky. Lucky that I was too broken to fight back at 18. Lucky that our father chose peace over justice. Lucky that the world rewards beautiful women who take what they want, but luck runs out. And the internet never forgets. She'd married a man named Dmitry Volkov in Cyprus 6 years prior. A Russian businessman who needed a green card, who paid her $50,000 for a marriage of convenience, who disappeared back to Moscow after the paperwork cleared. She'd never filed for divorce. Why would she? It was a transaction, not a relationship. A secret buried under newer secrets. I found the certificate. The photos. The email chain where they discussed terms like a business deal. I made copies. I made backups. I made sure that even if she destroyed one copy, 100 more would surface. I also found something I didn't expect, our father. He was in a nursing home in our old town. Early onset dementia, the records said. Linda had divorced him 5 years ago, taken half of what was left, and moved to Florida with a tennis instructor. Britney hadn't visited in 3 years. The bills were paid automatically from an account that was draining steadily toward empty. I sat with that information for a night. I thought about calling, about visiting, about forgiving him, or at least letting him know I was alive, I was successful, I was everything he'd failed to see. I didn't call. Not because I was cruel. Because I understood, finally, that his choice hadn't been about Britney or me. It had been about him. About his fear of being alone, his need for a narrative where he was the hero who built a new family, not the coward who abandoned his daughter. And that need had nothing to do with me. It never had. I sent an anonymous payment to the nursing home, enough to cover his care for 2 years. No note, no name, just money, which was the only language he'd ever understood. Then I went back to planning the wedding. The day before the ceremony, Britney called me at midnight. She was drunk or high, or both, her words slurring, her laughter too sharp. "Margaret, darling, I need to tell you something." She giggled. "You're the best wedding planner I've ever had. Do you know why? Because you don't judge, you just make things happen like magic." "Thank you, Britney, you should get some sleep. Big day tomorrow." "Big day," she repeated. The biggest. Richard thinks he owns me, because of the money, the ring, the stupid prenup I signed, but he doesn't own me. No one owns me. I learned that from my stepsister, pathetic little Claire, always crying about what was hers. Nothing is anyone's, everything is up for grabs. I gripped the phone so hard my hand ached. Your stepsister. God, years ago, she accused me of stealing her college fund, can you believe it? Her boyfriend too, apparently, though honestly, he came on to me. She was just so small. So convinced the world owed her something because her mother died. Like that's unique, like that makes you special. And the college fund? I asked, my voice perfectly steady. Did you take it? A pause, then that laugh, the one that had haunted my dreams for 15 years. Does it matter? She never proved anything. She ran away like a child and I built a life. That's the difference between us, Margaret. I take what I want. She whined about what she lost. I see, I said. Get some sleep, Britney. Tomorrow is going to be unforgettable. I hung up. I sat in the dark for a long time, not crying, not planning, just breathing, just being. Then I made 3 phone calls. One to the caterer, confirming the special projection equipment I'd ordered. One to Richard Caldwell's lawyer, sending an encrypted file with a note. Asterisk, you may want to review this before tomorrow. Asterisk, and one to a journalist I'd met at a charity event, who specialized in investigative pieces about financial fraud. Anonymous tip, I said. Wedding of the year, bigamy, identity theft, wire fraud, you interested? Always, she said. Be at the Cathedral of St. Michael tomorrow at 3. Front row, don't miss the vows. The cathedral was everything Britney had demanded: Gothic arches, stained glass filtering colored light onto 400 white chairs, a string quartet playing something by Pachelbel that I'd heard at 100 weddings and would hear at 100 more. I stood at the back, dressed in my best black suit, watching guests arrive in limousines and designer gowns. Richard Caldwell looked nervous at the altar. His best man kept checking his phone, probably the lawyer, who'd received my file an hour ago. The journalist was in the front row, a small camera disguised as a brooch on her lapel, and then the music changed. Wagner's bridal chorus. The doors opened. Britney entered on the arm of a hired escort, no father to give her away, no family to witness. Just her, in a dress that cost more than my first apartment, a veil that couldn't hide the triumph in her eyes. She walked down the aisle like she was ascending a throne, like the world was finally recognizing what she'd always known. She deserved this. She deserved everything. She reached the altar, turned to Richard, smiled that smile that had opened doors and closed hearts. Dearly beloved, the priest began. I gave the signal. A nod to the AV technician I'd hired personally, paid triple his usual rate, sworn to secrecy. The screens behind the altar, the ones that were supposed to display romantic photos of the couple during the reception, flickered to life. The first image was a bank statement. My bank statement from 15 years ago, the forged signature, the empty account, the transfer to an account registered to Britney Miller. The crowd murmured. Britney turned, confused. Richard frowned. The second image was security footage from the bank. A blonde woman presenting a fake ID. My face on the ID, Britney's face in the footage. The third image was an email. Britney to a friend, asterisk, I got the money. Claire's such an idiot, she never even checked the statements. Europe, here I come. Asterisk, Britney's smile froze. She turned to me, really looked at me for the first time in 15 years. And I saw it, the moment of recognition, delayed by botox and denial, finally arriving. No, she whispered. The fourth image was the Cyprus marriage certificate. Britney Ashford née Miller, married to Dmitry Volkov, 2019, still legally married, no divorce on record. Richard stepped back from her like she'd caught fire. What is this? Richard, I can explain, can you? I said. My voice wasn't loud, but the cathedral was silent now, every eye turned to me. I walked down the aisle, the same aisle she'd walked as a bride, the same aisle I'd walked as a ghost 15 years ago, leaving a home that was no longer mine. My name is Claire Margaret Chen, I said. I am 33 years old. And 15 years ago, the woman standing at that altar stole my college fund, my identity, and my father's belief in me. She used my name to commit fraud. She married a man for money while using another man's money to build the life she has today, and she is currently, legally, already married. I reached the front row. The journalist's camera was recording. The guests were frozen, some already pulling out phones, capturing the moment that would be on every news site by morning. I didn't come here for revenge, I said, and it was true in the way that matters. I hadn't come to hurt her. I'd come to stop her, to protect the next Claire, the next Margaret. the next person who would be small and pathetic and determined to be a victim in Britney's narrative. I came here because some debts don't expire, because some names can't be stolen, because the truth, finally, matters more than the story she wanted to tell. I turned to Richard. I'm sorry your wedding is ruined, but I'm not sorry you found out before you married her. Some lies are too expensive to keep. Then I turned back to Britney. She was crying now, mascara running, the perfect bride dissolving into the scared girl she'd always been underneath. The girl who believed that taking was safer than asking, that love was a transaction, that everyone was either a user or a victim. You wanted everything, I said. You got it, all of it. The fraud, the lies, the life built on stolen foundations. I hope it was worth it. I walked out of the cathedral into sunlight that felt like absolution. Behind me, I could hear Richard's lawyer arriving, the journalist's questions, Britney's sobs. It would be chaos, it would be justice. It would be the beginning of her ending, just as her theft had been the beginning of my becoming. I didn't look back. Ghosts don't look back, they just fade, finally, into light. I am Margaret Chen. I am 33 years old. I own a company, an apartment, a life built from nothing but refusal to disappear. I still have my mother's locket. I still have her name. And I still have the knowledge that some things once taken can be reclaimed, not by force but by patience, by discipline, by choosing every day to be the author of your own story. See you in the next story.